If you haven't had an opportunity to watch Dracula Untold, stop listening now. I just spoiled. Here we go. So we're gonna back up a couple of scenes, and we'll start with Vlad the Impaler utilizing the bats to destroy 10,000 men. So the vampire Dracula, he comes into this scene, or comes into this state that he is as Dracula, first from drinking the master vampire's blood. We don't know the name of this master vampire, but let's just call him Nosferatu. Let's go ahead and just do that right there. Once he drinks the master vampire's blood, Nosferatu, he becomes Dracula, and then Dracula goes through these changes. These changes are pretty much like his trials and tribulations, the stuff that he learns about his powers, the same way that Superman in the Fortress of Solitude, all that good stuff. So you get to see hearing, sight. You also get to see running really fast, flying, but the way that he flies is utilizing bats. He runs so fast that he bursts into like 10,000 bats, and then he comes back and he has his clothes on and everything. It's really fascinating. I guess the bats wear individual pieces of the garment and then they come back together. No jokes or nothing like that, but that's just what it is. Okay. Let's continue on. So while he is destroying these armies, utilizing, I think it's probably, I'd say 50,000 bats. What he does is he controls them with his hand, almost like the Kinect, or maybe like the Wii. So if you think of it like a Wii game, like from the Nintendo Wii, he's actually, using his hands, or matter of fact, almost like the Nintendo Power Glove. Let's just use it like that. The Nintendo Power Glove is what he uses on his hand. He doesn't have anything on there, but it's just, he's just putting his hand in the air, doing gestures like balling his fist up, and that makes the bats all come together. If he spreads his hands, his fingers apart, like, I don't know, like magical fingers or something like that, or spirit fingers, then he's able to, see the bats kind of spread out a little bit, and then after that he can cause a little bit more damage. He'll throw his hand in the air with a fist. He'll come down. If he punches the ground, then the bats will actually hit the ground, and they'll, create like this sonic boom type wave. And it's pretty awesome, man. The whole entire reason why, going back to part 2 when I ended, the reason why his wife ended up dying is because I think he took too much on his plate. What ends up happening is that the warrior children that this warlord, this empire, this king, whatever you want to call this guy, he created these warrior children. They are hell-bent on, going after what Vlad loves. He said, if he's taking all my things that I love, let's take what he loves and let's go after his wife, and let's go after his kid. Well, the wife does her best job in trying to protect the kid. She's holding on to dear life on this last tile that is about to break through because someone decided to not put any caulk inside of this tile for some reason. I don't know. Everything else looked beautiful, but for some reason, I guess some lazy servant, peasant, whatever you want to call them, decided not to put the caulk in, and she ends up falling to her death, man. And Vlad gets there probably about maybe 3.5 seconds too late, and he's trying his hardest to reach her, but the sun is rising, he's getting weak, he's losing bats, and what's kind of cool is they do this mid-air transformation from bat back into Vlad. And if you remember The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is one of the worst movies ever created in the history of cinema, whenever Gwen Stacy, that moment that she dies, when they, kind of up in the air, he goes back down and he shoots out his web, and they have that hand, that little tiny hand, that little web hand, that came from Dracula Untold. And I'm being 100% real. And if you haven't watched Dracula Untold, go watch that, and then go watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and watch the Gwen Stacy death scene, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I always said this, man. I said that, as Hollywood shares ideas, they might act like they're separate and they have drama and beef. I think that we create that as fans. That scene was scene by scene. The only way is like, instead of Spider-Man falling to his left, meaning that him falling to his right, meaning his right shoulder is towards the screen, he fell with his left shoulder towards the screen, and Gwen Stacy fell with her right shoulder towards screen. Well, Dracula fell, or he's falling, trying to grab his wife with his right shoulder towards the screen, and then she's falling with her left shoulder towards the screen. But it's the exact same scene, man. I just can't reiterate that enough and put any more emphasis. Just remember that. Anyway, man, she ends up snapping her neck, breaking her legs. You don't see any of this, but you just see the tears and emotion coming from Vlad's face, aka Dracula. And then after that, she says, with the last breath, she says, take my blood, drink my blood. The sun is running out. Kill these people, make them pay for what they did to your family. And that's what he does. He drinks her blood, he becomes Dracula forever. And then what's kind of cool about this is that he starts going back as pretty much, he's at that moment, the war is over, he lost the war, and everyone dies pretty much, okay? So what he does is he goes around the battlefield and he sees his fallen comrades, his best friends and all this stuff, and he turns them into his army, his Dracula army. And after that, man, he goes and he tries to fight the king, man. Okay, real quick, this is going to be real fast. Once he gets to the king spot, the king throws the silver and cuts, some curtains to where the sun comes in. There's a lot of silver. The silver is his kryptonite, but he pushes through. He has hope. And then after that, he kills the king. And you get to see this moment between Vlad and his son, where he's protecting his son. And his army that did an amazing job on the battlefield. They were like killing people left and right with some crazy moves, man. Any vampire that Dracula made on that battlefield, he doesn't have control over them. They're just vampires. And, with him, I guess his transformation was a little bit more worthy of redemption, or he didn't really want to be Dracula. So his thirst for human flesh or human blood that belongs to him, his bloodline, it's not as strong. But the vampires that he changes into his army, their bloodlust is really, really strong, man. Their desire to kill humans is strong. So they start turning against him. What he has to do is he ends up sacrificing all of his people. And it's a pretty emotional scene, man, because what he ends up happening, this priest comes out, the same priest that kind of exposed Vlad as being a vampire, and then after that the city had burned, the city turned against him and burned him inside of that barn. He comes out with this red piece, which I think was something from the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and he holds back the vampires, okay? Because I guess it's so holy or something like that, I don't know. Anyway, he takes Vlad's son, and then Vlad pretty much just opens up the heavens, takes back the clouds, because Vlad also has power over some of the elements of the earth, like it's kind of, I don't really want to say it like that, but he can bring in a storm if he wants to. Okay, I know that's going to be way over your head, but he can. With his army, he can bring in a storm. Anyway, he walks in with lightning, like literally, he's the king of the storms. Anyway. He opens up the heavens, the sunlight comes in, it kills every single vampire that was there in his army that tried to turn against him and kill his kid, and then it kills Dracula. Like, his flesh comes off, he's down to the bone, and that's it. It's over, man. What ends up happening, man, there's this Igor-ish type person that you see earlier in the film, whenever stuff starts getting kind of heavy and Dracula first turns, he's like, you can feed off me, let me serve you, master. Anyway, he feeds him the blood, it brings Dracula back to life, he brings him into good health. The kid lives on, his legacy lives on, so you get to kind of see, more elements of that stuff later on, as you transition from the past into the future. You see this scene where it's present day, Dracula's walking through like New York City, and you get to see Dracula's wife, which would be like one of his ancestors, or one of her ancestors that kind of looks just like her. I guess you can try to say, I guess true love survives throughout history or throughout time, and that's what you pretty much get, man. The other good thing is that the master who turned Dracula and said that if you drink a human's blood on the third, after the third day or before the third day ends, I'm going to call upon you whenever I want, and you'll have to do my bidding. Well, he did that because he drank his wife's blood, and then now the master vampire is walking free inside of New York City, exposed to a little bit of sunlight. Maybe he has some kind of cream on him. I don't know, but that's what Dracula, the sequel, the Dracula Untold sequel. I don't know what they're going to call the next Dracula Untold. I don't know what they're going to do. Dracula Untold 2, The Untold Tales of New York City. I don't know. But it's a pretty epic ending because Charles Dance says, you know, as the master vampire, he says, let the games begin. And then it ends, and that's the end of the movie, man. Guys, thanks again for watching, man. That's it, man. Like I said, 10 out of 10 stars. One of the greatest movies of 2014, man. And it is the best movie of 2014 right now, beating out all my top movies, man. We're out of here, guys. Thanks again for watching. And yeah, comment, like, subscribe. I couldn't do this without you. I really appreciate you listening. And yeah, if you did see Dracula Untold, what'd you think?